Hare Krishna, Maharaj, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to His Holiness Chandramauli Swami's daily online discourses. Thank you for joining today. Maharaj, Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So Maharaj, we will be continuing with Hare Krishna Maharaj. So we will be continuing with Canto 1, Chapter 10, verse 28. And I will just shortly begin sharing and pass the controls to you, Maharaj.
Yeah, I'll be right back. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nunam Vratasnana Hudadinde Vashvara. Samarchito Yasya Griha Pani Vihi. Vibhakti Yasakya Dalamritam Mahur. Rajastrinam Sammuhur Asayah. Oh, friends, just think of his wives whose hands he had accepted. How they must have undergone vows, baths, fire sacrifices, and perfect worship of the Lord of the universe by constantly relishing now the nectar of his lips by kissing. The damsels of Brajabhumi would often faint just by expecting such favors. So forth. Religious rites prescribed in the scriptures are meant to purify the mundane qualities of the conditioned souls, enable them to gradually promote to the stage of rendering transcendental service unto the Supreme Lord. Attainment of this stage of pure spiritual life is the highest perfection, and this stage is called Sarup, or the factual identity of the living being. Liberation means renovation of the stage of Sarup. In that perfect stage of Sarup, the living being is established in 5 phases of loving service, by which it is the stage of Madhurya Ras, or the humor of conjugal love. The Lord is always perfect in himself, and thus he has no hankering for himself. He, however, becomes a master, a friend, a son or a husband to fulfill the intense love of the devotee concerned. Herein, two classes of devotees of the Lord are mentioned in the stage of conjugal love. One is Swakiya and the other is Parakiya. Both of them are in conjugal love with the personality of Godhead Krishna. The queens at Dwarka were Swakiya, or duly married wives, but the damsels of Raja were young friends of the Lord while he was unmarried. The Lord stayed at Vrindavan till the age of 16, and his friendly relationships with the neighboring girls were in terms of Parakiya. These girls, as well as the queens, underwent severe penances by taking vows, bathing, and offering sacrifices in the fire, as prescribed in the scriptures. The rites as they are not an end in themselves, nor are fruit of actions, culture of knowledge, or perfection of mystic powers ends in themselves. They are all means to attain to the highest stage of Swarup, to render constitutional, loving, transcendental service to the Lord. Each and every living being has its individual position in one of the five mentioned different kinds of reciprocating with the Lord, and one is pure spiritual form of Swarup. The relationship becomes manifested without mundane affinity. The kissing of the Lord, either by his wives or his young girlfriends who aspire to have the Lord as their fiancé, is not of any mundane perverted quality. Had such things been mundane, a liberated soul like Sukadev would not have taken the trouble to relish them, nor would Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who have been inclined to participate in those subjects after renouncing worldly life. The stage is earned after many lives of penance. Chaksud militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Pastyatya De Satarine Anchakalpa Tarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Paevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama. So Jiver Sarupai Krishna Nityadas. This applies to all living beings, no matter what bodies they may inhabit. That means that there is an eternal loving relationship between every living soul, every soul, and the supreme living being, Krishna. Most of the population of the world is diverted away from their actual constitutional nature. And therefore, they think they can be happy in something that they create artificially. It's not possible. It's like a thief trying to be happy with stolen money. Because it's stolen, it doesn't belong to him. And therefore, he creates programs for his own happiness, but he's always in anxiety about being kidnapped or killed, arrested. In other words, because he is a thief, he's trying to enjoy something that is not his property. And he's created this false sense of happiness through this mentality. And because of that, he's never happy. Because it's not his position to be a thief. Everything belongs to the Lord, and we also belong to the Lord. Whatever arrangements we make in the material world are meant to stabilize our material needs in order so we can live and perform our actual occupational duty. Therefore, everyone in the material world, mostly everyone, is crazy because they think there's something that they're not when they're acting in another way. It's like if you go into an insane asylum, you might see people who are imitating, famous people who have died already, like Jesus Christ or George Washington or some popular person in history. And if you think this guy is crazy, then you're right, because he's simply acting against who his real identity is, at least on the material level. So in the same way, all living entities think that they're the body, and they think that they can be happy by arranging the material energy. And what do? The same thing that is being explained here. They have relationships with other living entities as a friend, as a parent, as a child, as a lover, as a wife, as a servant. But no one is happy because it's artificial. It can't give any real happiness. The only happiness is Krishna consciousness, because it's our nature. Srila Prabhupada was just testing his devotees. I was just listening today where he was asking him, well, if a living being in the material world says they don't want to worship the Lord, why should they worship the Lord? Then what would be your argument in a logical way to convince them that they must worship the Lord? The logic is that's our identity. As soon as we understand our identity, the logic is to help people understand their identity. And then they can understand their activity. Because people don't know their identity, they don't know their activity. And because they don't know their activity, they can't find happiness in anything they do. Although they pretend to be happy, but that's about all, because this is the material world, and it's a place where people are acting. It's like a dramatic performance. Nobody is the player that they're actually acting. They're somebody different. But in that acting, they have to adopt certain moods as the actor they're playing. But people in the material world are acting like they're this body, and they're acting like they can find happiness through the mind and the senses and the intelligence. Therefore, it's a farce. It's a big show. And that is the material world. So here, what we're seeing is something really wonderful, and that is that the Lord has a very intimate, loving relationships with those who understand their relationship with the Lord and try to develop that relationship in a certain way. There are diseases called rasa. Rasa means mellow, or a type of sweetness that comes from the relationship. So every relationship has to have some kind of mellow or sweetness, or otherwise a relationship won't last, or it's not a real relationship. So the sweetness is that the Lord will reciprocate in a loving way with his devotees, either by conjugal love, by friendship, by being their parent, or by being their child. He'll act in different ways according to the living entity's tendency to adopt a certain mood of loving devotion. And in other words, they get to associate with the Lord in that activity. And in that association, they purify their existence, come to the spiritual platform, and experience transcendental happiness. That happiness that is not based on anything external, but simply by the connection with one's eternal lover, Krishna. So this particular chapter here, the 10th chapter of the first canto, is giving somewhat of a preview of the 10th canto. It's interesting how one performs his activities with the devotees in Vrindavan. Here we're getting these statements ahead of time. So the Bhagavatam is preparing us for what is about to come to being in the later part of the Bhagavatam. And this perfectional stage is called Swarupa. Rupa means form. So Swa means one's personal. What is one's personal form? Personal form means, just like there is called Swadharma. Swadharma means what is your occupational activity. Swarupa means what is your personal form. So our personal form is not this material body, because we change forms all the time. One time we're a man, next time we might be a different person, different species, different gender, different culture, different planet. So we don't have a stable form in this world because we're always changing life after life. Maya Ravase, Nacho Bese, Nacho Ha Bubu Dubai. And then it goes on, Jeev Krishna Das, Hey Vishwas. And so we are eternally Krishna's servant, whether we're in the material world and have forgotten it, or whether we're in the spiritual world and we're acting upon it. It doesn't change our identity. Just like a person can put on different kind of clothes. They could be a cook and put on an apron and a big cook's hat. They can be a policeman with a uniform, a soldier with a uniform. Or the same person can be, say, a soldier during the day, and at night he's dressed up in his suit and tie, he's going out with his wife or his girlfriend. When he's relaxing at home, he has his bathrobe on. When he goes swimming, he's wearing his swimming trunks. So he can change his clothes into so many different kinds, but he's still the same. So the same way we change bodies, but we don't change our identity. We're always the same person. We're eternally Krishna's servant in one of these 5 rasas. And the devotee can aspire to develop a relationship with Krishna in any one of these 5 rasas. And by following the process, one can purify themselves, particularly through the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, and adopting a certain mood of devotional service according to one of those rasas. And then one can aspire by practicing service to an eternal resident in the spiritual world, or eternal resident in Krishna's entourage. And then one can gradually develop in that same relationship. So just like we see great personalities who appeared in the Lord's pastimes, they have different relationships with the Lord. Hanuman, he's a powerful warrior and he's carrying out instructions despite whatever the instructions is, he's fixed on that. Lakshmi sits on the chest at the lotus feet of Lord Narayan, and she gives him personal comforts and association. Krishna's friends jump on his back and play with him in different ways. And they roll on the ground and they laugh and tell jokes. And Krishna's parents are chasing after him so he can get something to eat because he's out there playing all the time. So Krishna can relate with so many different living entities according to how they want to relate with him. And if they develop in that mood, then that is called ras. And ras is the perfection of life. Without ras, love. And just like mundane ras, you have a relationship with another person, but there's a certain sweetness that comes from that relationship. That is what is rasa. Rasa is that sweetness that comes from that relationship. The sweetness of friendship, the sweetness of childhood, the sweetness of intimate, loving relationships. So Krishna is not like a lot of times people describe God like he's so far away from our existence. he can only be, we only follow his orders. That's all. That's the only thing we know about him. And if we become expert at following his orders, then when we die, we go back to kingdom of God. Very inspiring, because you don't know anything about God. All you know that he's the controller. But in Krishna consciousness, we can develop a certain type of intimacy with the Lord through rendering service to the Lord. And that is the sweetness of the living entity's existence. Okay, so I'll stop there and see if there's any questions. You can bring the purport up a little bit. I can't see the whole purport, and therefore I can't see some of the statements that are made in the purport. Mhm.
Is that okay, Maharaj?
Yeah, that's good right there. Stop there. Oh, in conjugal love, there is swakiya and parakiya. Swakiya means married. Parakiya means lawless love. That love that in the material world is sinful, but in the spiritual world, it's the highest expression of loving relationship with the Lord. Is that, and apparently, for the sake of rasa with Krishna, the gopis are married, but they take opportunities to leave their husbands and go to associate with Krishna and dance with him in what is called the rasa dance, a very enthusiastic form of dancing that is very intimate and very loving. The rasa dance is Krishna's perfection of loving relationships expressed with his female counterparts. So yeah, but in the material world, when someone is married and goes about trying to have another girlfriend or some other relationship on the side, they're considered sinful. They're considered to be unfaithful. In other words, there's nothing good about it. It's a thing of condemnation. Of course, now because it's Kali Yuga, anything goes. People do whatever they want in the name of individual expression. But as we know, by God's law and by the laws, even of the laws of the state, these things are sinful. But and when Krishna does it, it's the highest form of loving expression. And it brings about the most pleasure because each of the rasas have a certain sweetness, but Madhurya Ras is the condensation of sweetness in its highest form. It is sweetness, just like you might say there is sugar, which is granulated. Then you have molasses, which is a little bit more concentrated. Then you have sugar cane, which is even more concentrated. Then you have rock candy, which is the highest form of sugar, most concentrated. So in the same way, the different rasas are all sweet. But the gradations of sweetness reaches its perfection in Madhurya Ras, because it is the most intimate and loving association with Krishna. And in this material world, we try to enjoy like that, but usually we have so many problems connected with that attempt to enjoy. Okay, so but then with Krishna, there's no problem. It's always perfect.
Thank you, Maharaj, for this wonderful class. This class has many finer points about our original identity and how every happiness we try to achieve in relation to the body ends in illusion and misery. So thank you, Maharaj, for this class. Dear devotees, I would appreciate if you can turn on your cameras to make the session more interactive, personal, and please, if you have any questions, comments, realizations, please go ahead and ask. You can alternatively type and I can read out your question as well. Thank you.
We just lost 2 persons as soon as the class ended. We had 21, now we have 19.
Maybe an
2
internet.
people escaped.
Maharaj, whilst the devotees contemplate and think, I really like this comment that you made, and that our only happiness, you know, I was just trying to think about this word, our only happiness is in Krishna consciousness, because that is our real nature. And that it's a very, very strong affirmations, Maharaj, because our only happiness lies in devotional service and in relation to Krishna, Maharaj.
Yeah, because otherwise we're a thief. And how can a thief be happy? We're trying to enjoy something that is not meant to be enjoyed. The person will think, just like a person may have some money, and another person steals that person's money. So that money belongs to the person, the rightful person, but someone else has stolen it. So that other person now has that same money that other person had. There's no different in the money. Money's the same. But for one person, it belongs to that person. It's his rightful heir, a rightful possession. And for the other one, he's taken it unlawfully. So that's the same way in the material world. Everything belongs to Krishna. We belong to Krishna. And therefore, when we try to be separate from Krishna or try to enjoy Krishna's energy, we're a thief. We're trying to enjoy like a thief tries to enjoy. And therefore, there's no enjoyment like that. There's only anxiety and suffering. Same thing.
Thank you, Maharaj. Devotees, any questions, any comments?
Happiness is there if we direct our consciousness towards Krishna. That's why it says to be Krishna conscious means to be in your natural consciousness or original consciousness.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much for that lovely class. Thank you so much. So warm, so darling. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna Maharaj.
This is Aparna.
Dandavat Maharaj, Dandavat.
Mayapur Dham ki jai.
Jai Jai. Guru Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai.
No questions, huh? Okay.
Well, it was lovely, a lovely lecture. Everything was done, everything was said. We just feel it. No question, just feel it. You have a question?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yes,
Hare
Mataji, go ahead.
Sorry, my voice is not very clear. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. Maharaj, you were talking about, as you were discussing with Dinanath Prabhu, I was thinking like, I'm not still getting that the only happiness is in devotional service. How to train your mind to know that, like, we still search happiness in different other things, like earning money or earning some respect or and material things, and accumulating more things in the house. So like all these things, still we are focusing not on the pure devotional service. So how to fix your mind, that I know this, that devotional service is the ultimate happiness, but still my mind is not getting it.
Because we're conditioned in the other way. We've been associating with the material energy for many lifetimes. And this conditioned nature is very, very deeply rooted. Although it's foreign to our actual existence, still, it has been so much part of our existence that we have compounded the various layers of material existence, life after life after life. And so, therefore, we forget, or even cannot even understand what is our position on the spiritual platform, only because of our conditioned existence. So Krishna consciousness means to work through that conditioning and gradually remove it through the process of devotional service. But in order not to slow down the process or even impede the process, one should understand that everything in this material world is created by Krishna, either directly, he creates the elements that make everything, and then Brahma takes those elements and formulates the 8,400,000 species of life. And then that is called the original creation. But then the living entities in this world, they become another creator. They take those same energies and recreate it and make houses, cars, computers, furniture, various types of amenities that we surround ourselves with. So, but we have to understand that all of these things that are, they belong to Krishna because he is the cause of all of it, because he created the elements by which everything exists. Everything belongs to him, and he is it says in the Bhagavad Gita that he is Bhokta, Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. And he is the supreme enjoyer, he is the supreme controller, but he's also the best friend of all living entities because he has the interest of the living entities at heart. He's always working for the benefit of the living entity. And saying there's another world besides this phenomenal material world, which is always changing. And that is eternal, full of knowledge, and unlimitedly joyful with unlimited amounts of varieties. That's so far away from our experience that we almost think it doesn't exist. Therefore, we think what we see or what we are experiencing in this body and mind and senses seems to be the most important thing in our life. But it's not. It's like when you go to sleep at night, you forget the whole existence by which you live during the day. You're not on another mental plane. You're not even aware of who you are. You are not even aware that you have a body. You are not aware of anything. All you are is aware that you may have some dream, and then you may be aware, you create some mindset in that dream. So yeah, we're dreaming all the time that this is my body, that these things are actually meant for my enjoyment. They're not. But they have a purpose. Use your money to serve Krishna. Use your time to serve Krishna. Use your material possessions to engage them in Krishna's service. So that's why there are all of these amenities in this world, so we can use them as a means by which we can serve. Because in order to do service, you have to offer something. But Krishna gives us things to offer. He gives us, our money. He gives us our time, our intelligence, our words, ultimately our life. And he gives us many of the other things too, just like we're all sitting in front of a computer now. So the computer is material. It's made out of different electronic parts, and it works in a certain way. But when you use it for what we're using it, to communicate, talk about Krishna, discuss about Krishna, it's spiritual, not anywhere material anymore. So from the absolute point of view, everything is spiritual. Everything. All of our possessions, even our body, is spiritual, because nothing created by the Lord can be material. The Lord is spiritual, and everything he creates is spiritual. But material simply means that we've removed it from his connection and we're using it separately. That's material. But everything ultimately is spiritual. Everything. The computer is spiritual. Everything is spiritual because ultimately the ingredients that make it up is coming from Krishna, and Krishna cannot create anything material. But we see it as cut off from Krishna or separate from Krishna. That is called material consciousness. And when we live a life like that, that is material world. When you connect everything back to Krishna, including you, yourself, then you're back in the spiritual consciousness again. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, whatever you do, whatever you offer, whatever you eat, whatever activities you perform, just do it for me. And then you're spiritualizing your life. That's all. In other words, you're bringing it back to its original position of being used in the service of the Lord. That's all. And then it's no longer material anymore. It's like, what's the difference between a temple and a house? When you see it from the external, a house is made out of bricks, wood, and various types of metal. And the temple is the same thing. So the buildings are the same in terms of the construction or the ingredients. But one is a temple and one is a house. One place somebody is, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And another place, the people are there worshiping the Lord. So the building is the same. One is spiritual and the other one is material.
Yes, Maharaj. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, just try to see everything in relationship to Krishna, that's all. And that's something we have to practice. And that comes by our chanting.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Yeah.
Chanting, associating.
Yeah.
Realize everything's temporary.
Mm.
Because even the scientists know that matter cannot be created or destroyed. That's the terminology in physics. Matter cannot be created or destroyed. But the forms can change. So that matter is not really matter. It's Krishna's spiritual energy in its basic elements.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Try to see everything in relationship to Krishna. And just keep your mind on Krishna, that's all. How to serve Krishna, how to engage others in serving Krishna, how to follow religious principles that helps us remember Krishna and gets us off the bodily platform.
Thank you, Maharaj. Namrata Mataji, please go ahead and ask your question.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, my question was about dreams. How are our dreams, what are our dreams influenced by? Is it the karmas or is it the previous lives or subtle body? What are they influenced with? And how do we connect them with Krishna consciousness? I think I'm asking this because this is not the part which is in our control.
Yeah, well, dreams are the impressions or the experience. You're changing the water again? The dreams that dreams can come from different sources. One is in our unconscious part of our mind, we have desires, and they lay dormant, just like a computer. For instance, what you see up on the screen is not everything that's in the computer. What you place in your mind at the particular moment is what you're focusing on. But in your mind, there are so many desires, so many impressions, so many experiences, all of that, life after life, it's there in the unconscious part of the mind. And so sometimes in dreams, it comes out. Just like sometimes a person will have a desire that they haven't fulfilled on the material level, on the gross level, on the waking level, and they'll fulfill it in their dream state. Because the desire is so strong that it actually comes out in the form of dreaming. But then there's other kinds of dreams where you see something during the day and it has an effect on you. It takes root in your emotional body, and then it'll come to you in a dream. For instance, you'll see a mountain, and then you'll see something blue. So in the dream, you'll see a blue mountain. So the mind will take two impressions that are on the waking level, recreate them in the dream state. That's another type of dream. And the third kind of dream is when you eat food cooked by non-devotees, and then you get their karma coming out in the dream. So you'll get their consciousness in the form of their material desires. That's why we always eat only prasadam. If you have to take food outside, never, never, ever take grains. Grains are the quickest way to transfer karma from one person to another through the grains. So these are three kinds of dreams. One from our own consciousness from previous experiences. One from daily experiences that we have and we get certain impressions from. Or from someone else's consciousness that comes into our consciousness and affects our consciousness. So you can't really put dreams into a one-way category.
Okay, Guru Maharaj, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji. That was a very nice question, and thank you, Maharaj, for answering it so wonderfully.
And Prabhupada would say, if you think of Krishna all day and you work for Krishna, chant Krishna's name, then at night you'll dream about Krishna, or you'll have some kind of spiritual dream. So,
Thank you for mentioning that, Guru Maharaj. That encourages me. Thank you.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Vrindavan Nath Prabhu, You have a question? Please go ahead.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, I have a question which is partly related to Srimati Mataji point. So as you mentioned that we are conditioned, can you hear me, Guru Maharaj?
Yeah, if I listen closely.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I will. It's better now. So my question, Guru Maharaj, is related to Srimati Mataji, and I was saying that as you mentioned that we are conditioned, and one side I feel that we know that we need to be fully in Krishna consciousness. Every action and utility needs to be used for Krishna. But reality many times is that we are not to that point now. But one thing I feel that which is changing continuously, like more and more with devotee association and more after hearing Krishna Katha, is that when we are on material, we are involved in material activities, at least awareness is there that yes, I am doing this material activity, and Krishna, please try to engage me more and more in your service. So that's the thing, Guru Maharaj. I feel like it's not completely like on the Krishna, completely to the journey really, where every utility I'm utilizing for Krishna only. But it's changing. It's like I feel like it's a gradual path. I'm moving towards that path, but not sure whether this is the right way or there is something like.
No, you're becoming more aware that there is two aspects to your existence. You're material and spiritual. You're becoming more aware of the spiritual even while you're doing the ordinary activities. So, and that's good. That means you're making advancement. It means your consciousness is becoming broadened. The Krishna consciousness means broadened consciousness or expanded consciousness. So you're starting to see yourself in relationship to the activities you perform. And you're seeing it in a more or less, you start to observe yourself rather than just be absorbed in the activity. That's good. That's an indication of some purification is coming.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj, for all your mercy. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Maharaj, I have Revati Mataji, please go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. Yeah, thank you so much for this very beautiful class. You already explained, but I just wanted to clarify it more, like material rasas and spiritual rasas. So material rasas is like more like doing your duties towards your husband, your kids and your in-laws and everyone. And spiritual rasas is like you're developing the love with Krishna. So when you're doing your material duties, you might experience some difficulties in fulfilling those duties. You may not really satisfy every relationship. Will that hinder the progress in Krishna consciousness? Will that hinder developing the relation with the Lord, with Supreme Lord?
Can you just repeat the last line you mentioned? I didn't catch it.
So when we are executing our material rasas, our duty towards, kids, father, in-laws, and everyone, so we develop difficulties. We are trying, but we develop some difficulties to, make happy every relationship. So, and also we are in the spiritual platform. We also want to progress, spiritually. So any material rasas, if we don't do it, will that, hinder our progress in, in Krishna consciousness?
Well, in order for you to perform devotional service more peacefully and naturally, if we have material responsibilities, then we should take care of those responsibilities accordingly. We shouldn't neglect our material responsibilities, especially in Grihastha life. If there's children, there's husband, there is responsibilities with the household, then we should do it. If we become negligent in these things, it may also affect our attitude in Krishna consciousness too. We'll become negligent in that area also. So yeah, there's a responsibility. But we should follow the religious principles that govern these material activities, because there are religious principles for each of the ashrams. So learn the religious principles. And Bhagavatam talks a lot about the basic activities that are foundational in order to to complete one's material responsibilities in the best possible way. What is my relationship with my children? What is my relationship? It's not just doing the duty. You have to know what is the relationship that you have developed in doing your duty also. So these things are there. Bhagavatam speaks a lot about that. Bhagavatam speaks not only about the spiritual activities, but the activities that we conduct in the material world and how to perform them in such a way that they don't drag us down.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Very sorry, my phone got disconnected. I didn't know, so I had to again logging back. Yeah, forgive me. Apologies.
Yeah. So follow the rules and regulations of your ashram and practice Krishna consciousness in that mood. If you're a wife, be a dutiful wife. If you're a mother, be a dutiful mother. So yeah, do your duty nicely. And also become Krishna conscious. That's the first thing, become Krishna conscious. But Krishna conscious person is not negligent in their day-to-day activities.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, we are doing our duties, but satisfying a relationship, making them happy is, as I was asking, will it affect our Krishna consciousness? Yeah.
We can't make anybody happy. We don't have that power. Only Krishna can make people happy. We can do our best to serve that person for their benefit. Whether they're happy or not depends on whether Krishna wants them to be happy or not. It's Krishna. Prabhupada said no one can do any good for anyone because no one has the power to do any good for only Krishna. So Krishna can use you for his purpose of doing good to others. Then you seem like you're doing it, but you're not. He's doing it through you. But you think you're doing it. You're simply his instrument. Prabhupada would give the example hundreds of times. A man is sick. He calls the best physician in the world, pays the highest amount of, medical expense, thinking that because he's got the best physician, he's going to get well. Not necessarily. If Krishna doesn't want that person to get well, the best physician can't save him. And if if Krishna wants a person to get well, even if they don't have a doctor, they can get well. Yeah, we have an example of one of our inmate devotees. He was in jail. He got COVID, got completely neglected, no care, nothing. He had the coronavirus right in the middle of the epidemic. And he was on, looked like he was going to die. He just started to chant Hare Krishna, that's all. And after about a week, the virus was gone. No medicine, no care. Just the holy name. Krishna wanted him to stay. He took shelter of Krishna. So there's no material shelter out there. A material person can't give shelter to anyone, nor can we get shelter from anyone out there because no one can give shelter. Only Krishna. But if Krishna wants to use someone to help us, then that's him. It's not us. Example of the doctor is the ideal example.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
There you go. So just try to be Krishna conscious and do your duties in that mood. And then you can be a benefit for everyone. Because you're not only giving them some material thing, but you're also giving them Krishna by your association.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Namrata Mataji, yeah, please go ahead.
Prabhu, you had a question. You can go ahead and ask the question. I can ask afterwards.
No, it's okay. You go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Guru Maharaj, just a follow-up of the Revati Mataji. You mentioned that Krishna uses as the instrument. So if the Krishna is using us as an instrument, whether for a good purpose, I mean, obviously the purpose is always good, but if we are playing a negative role or a positive role, whatever instrument we are, how do we understand to stay undisturbed in any condition we are meant to be used as?
Well, you can't act against the laws of material nature and expect to be undisturbed. The laws of material nature are set by Krishna. It's like the Pandavas, they had to go through a lot of trials and tribulations, but they were devotees of Krishna. But they never forgot Krishna amongst all these trials and tribulations. And they were pushed into the forest for 13 years. Their wife was insulted. Their children were killed. So many calamities came upon the Pandavas. And even Krishna was there. Bhishma Dev was crying at the end, thinking how much the Pandavas suffered, even in the presence of Krishna. But they never forgot Krishna. And ultimately, they attained perfection and went back to the spiritual world. So material ups and downs will be there. Not like material up means I'm Krishna conscious and material down is I'm something else. No. It's just the way the material world works.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Krishna is not anybody's security guard. He's not anybody's doctor. He's not anybody's gardener. He's not anybody's stockbroker. He's the object of our service and devotion. That's all.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Maharaj, I just had a comment on one of the statements that you made, where we said that our eternal relationship is with Krishna, and everything that we are acting with the temporary relationships is not real. And then you said, develop intimacy with the Lord through service. And that is something, Maharaj, is quite powerful, because, you know, the word intimacy, so through service, we can experience that intimacy of that relationship. And that's something very nice, Maharaj.
That's how we do it in the material world. We develop intimacies with someone through
Yes.
service. Yeah. When it's done with Krishna, that's real intimacy. That's something that's not subjected to time or circumstance. Okay, this I have to travel tomorrow, and I'm still in the process of preparing myself. So we have to end now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. His Holiness Chandramauli Swami ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Srimati announced Thursday's program.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thursday is ISKCON Harrisburg class. But the timing is 1 hour later. That is now it's